Hey, friends. Just wanted to record a quick little intro before today's episode with Tony Dunst, just to catch y'all up. Because it's a little shorter than some of the ones we have been doing, although, for the most part, we're trying to get it to an hour. And basically anything after that is a bonus. And once we get enough traction, some of that bonus material might be Patreon only. That all said, things have been kind of busy lately, so I haven't gotten to play a lot, which can be a little frustrating. This last month's been real eventful. I had some family in town. A couple weeks before that, I had a trip out of town and came back physically all messed up. So I had to kind of get off my feet and recover for a couple weeks. My back and hips. I don't know if it was the flying or what, but uh, all that. And this coming week, I've got a wedding to go to, and I'll be out of town for about 5 days. So, been kind of eventful. Haven't gotten to play poker a lot. It's been nice to see people, and it'll be nice to travel. But at this point in time, I'm being honest. My motivation to play is lacking. Although I do need to make money and make a job, it's just gotten to a point of frustration with not being able to, win consistently this year, make enough. Like, things were going well, and then right when I need them to, go well or really step it up a notch, instead of go on losing streaks. So, as I'm recording this, it's Saturday. Tomorrow's Sunday. I'll probably play then, but trying to keep my expectations in check. Hopefully win something. Gotta at least try, right? And as far as anything else goes, yes, so we're having Tony on, one of the more fashionable poker players you may know, and that's why I'm wearing these. And though don't wear them for the entire show, it will come up at some point. So, been accessorizing a little with the matching sunglasses, trying to stay fashionable, trying to, the little things sometimes are really make it worth it. That's about all I have. Anyone, who wants to support the show or back me at poker or help me find paying work some other way, get in touch, I guess. And in the meantime, I hope the show's good and you'll enjoy it, and we'll end up making something can be proud of, at least, if nothing else. And so far, I think so good. I've been pretty happy with it. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I'm going to turn it over to the proper recorded episode now, so enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Speak. It's me, your host, Nate. I'm very excited for today's guest, longtime friend of mine. You may know him for his work as one of the hosts of the World Poker Tour, perhaps for being the only one of our online generation who actually cared about fashion and how he looked and dressed at the table. One of the only people I've never seen wear a sweatsuit to the table. But, he's been around the world. I mean, he's meeting us, he's come from Australia to Las Vegas. He's come a long way, baby. You're a friend of mine. Please give a warm welcome, if there was a live audience here, to Tony Dunst.
Hey, Nate, how you doing? What's going on today?
Hey, man. I'm pretty good. Not a lot, just, I don't know, same old. We got a wedding to go to next weekend, so I was trying to, get some episodes in the bank before we go. Pretty excited to do this, but, life
Who's
goes
getting
on.
married?
My wife's cousin. So we're headed up to Northern California, which would be pretty sweet.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, Northern California is always good times.
Yeah, it's nice. It's going to be a little winery, so that'll be fun. Yeah, I've only gotten to go up there a couple times before, but I love it. Went to San Francisco on my honeymoon. I got a couple close friends that live around there, one in San Francisco, one in Sacramento. So hopefully we'll get to do the wedding, see a couple friends. How about you? How's you doing? What's going on?
So I'm in Brooklyn right now. I'm deciding on a new place to live. A lot of the guys some of the guys that you may have, kind of come up with and heard of back in the day.
Yeah.
Dan Smith is living here.
Oh, cool.
Andrew Seidman, if you knew him back in the day. I can't remember what his 2+2 man was.
Not sure if I knew him.
But he was an active poster on there. He lives in the neighborhood. Nick Binger as well,
Sounds familiar. Don't
who
know
I've
what
been
you're
friends
doing.
with for a long time. Ben Tollering,
Know who that is?
legend,
Don't
of
think I know him.
course.
Yeah.
And Aaron Jones is coming to visit
Oh,
in
cool.
like a few days, and he and I are still like super tight, and
Yeah, yeah.
just kind of as a
Great.
crew, are still all pretty friendly. So my girlfriend and I have been kind of figuring out a new place to live outside of Vegas. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't. How much time do you spend in Vegas playing poker these days?
Me, not a whole lot. I mean, I haven't been back since I saw you at the WSOP 2 years ago. I've been
Okay,
kind of part timing it, just playing online, trying to find out, just trying to make a little on the side. Except that now, right
right,
at the moment, I don't have a job, so it's not the side, but I'm looking. And if anyone wants to help turn this show into a reality, and you're watching on
right.
video, you can see the Patreon link at the bottom. Yeah, but see, I don't make it out that much. Maybe I'll make it this. It depends how some things go in the next couple months because it hasn't been a good year at the table so far. Basically breaking even, which is not what I'm accustomed to, and also,
Yeah,
but it'll turn around. I think. Just kind
I
of,
just think the game's getting. I think it's getting tougher. I mean, that's
yeah,
why part of why I'm not really playing very much this year. This is the
yeah,
first time in 6 or 7 years that I haven't dedicated like just a ton of time to poker, study, playing, grinding, being online mostly, putting in some live volume, all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
And it's a strange feeling, to make something such a huge part of your life and a huge part of your habits, and then a massive chunk of time just opens
yeah.
up. Um, are
That's what
you
we
are
do,
you
man.
like full time with poker? You mostly you said you're mostly playing online.
Yeah.
Is it
Well, mostly,
what site?
Club WPT actually, just because
Okay,
that's
we
where
love to hear it.
yeah, I'm sure. Yes,
Yeah,
our broadcaster friend here. Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, that's where I found the games the easiest. Although things definitely went well in the earlier going, but I think there were just a lot more tournaments. A lot more of them small field ones like you could play, like in the evening or whatever. Overall, I've had success. I just haven't of late, and it can get a little. I mean, I'm sure you haven't been playing for a while. We'll talk about this. It can get a little frustrating when you kind of feel like you're beating your head against the wall, and it's like, what. There are definitely the times where like part of my brain is like, I know if I keep grinding, things are gonna eventually turn around, work out, and then
yeah,
there's part of me that's like, at this point, it's like, I could have been doing something else instead of losing money today. But
right.
that's part of the deal, I guess. And obviously, when I was younger, I didn't have as much else going on to really detract from how much I wanted to do that. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I
no,
think
go
even
ahead.
when we were younger, we caught poker when it was early on in the
Mm-hmm.
real boom period in the early and mid
Yeah,
2000s.
even
Well, I think we had some awareness about the fact that this was quite a good opportunity to have while you were so young. I don't
mm,
think many of us realized just like how good of an opportunity that was, especially back then. Like I had no financial understanding of anything. Like I honestly, after the 2008 crash,
mm-hmm,
I thought like maybe the stock market was kind of a scam, and that the people who did that kind of thing are sort of wasting their time.
mm-hmm,
And like I just never really thought about my anything financial until I was well into my 30s. And I think back when we were like in our late teens and early 20s, if somebody had sat us down and been like, look, if you can grind a game
mm-hmm.
online and make, let's say, 6 figures a year in those years, I think that was
Yeah,
happening for many people,
mm-hmm.
many people.
Totally
And you
reasonable.
just take some of that and put
Mm-hmm.
it in some very safe investments that are going to compound over time. Holy shit, you will have so much money by the time you're 40, 45, 50, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like, that is, I guess I'd say, like, the bigger regret of my career is that, like, I just didn't understand and think about these things at the time. Like, I didn't quite get how good that opportunity was in the space during that window, even though there was like a little bit of awareness that this was unusual, that we were
Mm-hmm.
very young to be like flying around and playing this game. But man, I wish somebody had just set me down and been like, no, every year
Uh,
you're just gonna set it aside 10, 20%, whatever it is, and it's gonna
mm-hmm.
go with some boring ass stock play, S&P, whatever the hell it is, and you're just gonna be chilling.
Yeah, totally. I feel very much the same. Probably my big regret because I didn't really have any financial literacy. Um,
Mm-mm.
as a youth or growing up, I, especially after, going through honestly some significant stretches of poverty, really, both, kind of the teenager in my 20s,
Yeah.
I got to stop saying, so much. Like a year basically before, yeah, even as recently, I would say, as a year before I basically quit my job and started playing full time because I finally had made enough to do that. I didn't really have a job or any money, or really, I was, staying basically on a friend's couch. Uh, and then a year later, all of a sudden, we had a nice little run in online poker. I decided to start studying it. 6 months after that, I really started playing seriously again. And 6 months after that, I hit big in this 11 rebuy, one of the old 11 rebuys with stars, and quit my job. But it's like, just that long. That's not a year is not a lot of time, as I've come to realize in my 40s. But yeah, just how quickly it turned around. And even in college or whatever, and a year or two after, I either didn't have money, or when I had money, found ways to spend it on what I wanted without worrying about tomorrow. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
same thing. I just wish I'd known or had a better sense of the future and nothing lasts forever, because I really don't want to work a job.
I
Like,
hear
I don't
you.
mind working on stuff, but I would like to work on my own things and not have to
Yeah.
worry. But
I mean, I'm very
life goes
fortunate
on.
that I landed a job in the industry that
Yeah.
was so, tangential to what I was already doing and interested in. And I just feel super fortunate to have, landed at WPT. I've been there 16 years
16.
now,
Yeah. Wow. I was going
which
to
is
ask.
which is wild to think about,
I know. That's damn.
most of my adult life I've spent at the same company, which is pretty rare these days
Yeah.
in almost any industry, to
Sure.
spend such a long time at the same company.
Tell me about it.
Um, yeah, and there's a good, it's very cliche, but there's like an actually good family environment there where a lot of the same people have been working there for many years.
That's
We've
very
taken a
cool.
lot of trips and done work things and worked odd hours, together and been in stressful situations together. And there's just like a very strong history. And, in the case of people like Vince and Lynn, I've been super close to them for almost 20 years. Shit, when I think about it, I've known Lynn just almost, yeah, close to 20 years, because she
Wow.
was she was working at Crown Casino when I was down there in Australia grinding.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Um, she was working in the marketing department, and then she was doing poker news interviews for players down there before she came over here and,
Yeah.
knocked it out of the park with WPT. So,
Yeah.
man, it's a
Oh, wow.
poker
So she's
world. It's
still
been a
there.
minute.
Yeah. I was like, she's still there.
Yeah.
I know they've had a few people rotate. When did she start there? Because,
She started around,
yeah.
let me think about this, 2012-ish, I
Okay.
want to say. Right in there, 2012, 2013-ish. Um, pretty sure, yeah.
Okay.
And
Wow. Yeah.
not long after I started, because I started late 2010, and I
Mm-hmm.
think she was added maybe like 18 months after I came on the
Oh,
show.
wow. Okay.
And
Yeah.
I remember at the time they were just sort of asking people like, "Oh, do you know Lynn? What do you think of the choice?" I was like, "Oh, she's gonna crush it." We knew her back in Australia. She always had
Yeah.
a very natural rapport with the players, and had been
Cool.
around poker and the casino gambling environment enough. And I think that that happens sometimes when people come into the poker world and they do media, if
Yeah.
they don't have a background or a history with poker players, with
Mm-hmm.
gamblers in casino environments, it's a tough go of it. Even if they're a pretty polished broadcaster, there needs to be a
Yeah.
level of authenticity, and especially to relate to the players and know how poker players kind of think and feel if you're going to be interviewing them around these tournaments or like right before, during a final table. Being in our world helps a lot.
Oh, yeah. I don't doubt it. Right. Yeah. Wow. I'm just thinking about this. It's a lot. It makes a lot of sense. So let's process. Yeah. Because sorry, real quick. The thing I was just going to say about Lynn is like, yeah, I know, because in the earlier years they always they rotated different of the. I don't know what role you call that. I don't know enough about
Anchor
anchor.
woman.
She's the anchor
Every
woman. Yeah. Oh,
few years there
yeah.
was a
Because
new
you
anchor
basically, you
woman.
guys are in the booth, I guess, and I don't know a lot of the technical terms about broadcasting.
Mhm.
But yeah, but she's been there for over a decade now. Like you said, that's really cool,
Yeah.
and that's great. Yeah, I like. See, that's something that it's funny because wow, 16 years. Because I think about it like, I think I could probably do decent commentary now. I could not have then. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not, like you said, a polished broadcaster, but I don't know if I've ever told you this. I've done a few years of stand up. I've done another podcast with some of my comedian friends from back in Houston. So it's like, oh, at least I have some experience talking now. And, I still watch broadcasts and stuff, and I'm like, if nothing else, I have tons of stories and references to fill the slow moments. But
Mhm.
yeah, just it seems like fun. I would like to, maybe I'll give some amateur work a shot one of these days. But that is very cool just to find something steady. I think that's something else we didn't really understand at the time. That at least for me, that poker wouldn't last forever, and it would be smart to find something more consistent, more stable
Yeah.
than poker tournaments, which, while fun and occasionally very lucrative, are not what I describe as a stable way to make money.
And I
uh,
got very lucky in that regard because I didn't enter the poker world looking for a job. If anything,
yeah.
my mentality, I think our mentality, our generation's mentality at the time was, this is how I get out of the rat race. This is how I
Hmm.
get out of the idea of a corporation or a boss out there putting a seal of approval on me about what my worth is, about
Yeah.
what I can
And
actually
just.
generate for myself as a
Hmm.
living. And especially doing it on my own time and in my own way.
Yeah.
And I got into the WPT at 25 and, was not a great, how to put it, I wasn't a good professional at the beginning. Like I would miss, like meetings or
Hmm.
interviews or stuff. Not a ton, but like more than should have happened. Just I wasn't good on my email. I was harder to reach. Like I basically lived and acted like a poker player
Yeah.
earlier on in my career, and it took sort of a reconditioning before I was corporate ready, even though it's not like an extremely corporate environment or anything
Right.
like that. Like there's a certain responsiveness and professionalism that's expected if you're going to work in these environments. And as poker players, it's a tricky adjustment to go from that world to the corporate world. I think,
Hmm.
we definitely have seen some of our generation move on to roles outside of poker, but I also think there are people who are still in poker that would abstractly like to go get a job doing something that's not poker,
Hmm.
but they don't really have a ton, like with giant gap in their resume,
Sure.
they don't really like have a ton of sense of what that direction would be. And especially if you're making living in poker, like to leave that for a mystery job that may or may not exist and might just be worse,
Yeah.
it's a tricky pro and cons way.
Oh, totally. Like, yeah, I say I like poker and I like the freedom and independence, but I say I liked it a lot more when I knew I had enough money stashed up and enough from the stakes I was playing that I wasn't really sweating any individual day up or down at all.
Yeah.
It's when things start to. That has been part of the frustrations of my attempts at saying because lately I started again in about 2021 after taking some time off. And I went to Mexico in 2016. I don't know if I ever mentioned that to you, but kind of didn't really work out for a couple reasons.
Hmm.
So I just stepped away. It was like, all right, I guess I need to start looking to do something else with my life. Then I got back into it in 2021 and I was having fun again. But the last 6 months, years been. Let's see, I got laid off a year ago, and what's the other problem with the corporate world? We'll get to that in a second. But I tried to put in some time grinding, and it feels like every time I'm close to like having a breakthrough, I just hit or getting enough money to be like, no, maybe this will work out long term. Maybe I can just get back to doing this instead. I just hit a losing streak instead, so that's a little frustrating. And then the flip side of the corporate world, I loved about poker the independence, the not having to there's a nice not having to be accountable to anyone else and not having anyone else have that say on your time. But then the flip side, obviously, is you have to manage that, and that puts a lot more on you. And maybe some of us weren't ready to handle that. What you say about the corporate world, or even that working a job, the professionalism. I think some of that too just comes with maturity. I've had a couple jobs since I moved to Colorado that I
Yeah.
mostly enjoyed either the people I worked with or what I was doing, but they didn't last kind of for reasons out of my control, and that's kind of the arbitrary thing of it all, Like I used to, well, I haven't in a little bit. I joked with people about, why I was trying to go back to poker is like, luck could be brutal, variance could be brutal, but, so can office politics and just, losing your job because the profit margins aren't high enough, even though you are actually good at what you're doing. But yeah, the professionalism, I think some of that too is just maturity. Like so many of us, we were in our 20s. I feel like I'm
Mhm.
actually one of the older ones who, broke through as our generation when we did. And I was, only 24 when I really was just solely playing poker for a living, right? And a lot of people, 21 or 18 even. And yeah, you're not really prepared for what, yeah, it's a totally different life and it could throw you, you can jump into that. And that's the other thing about making money at a young age is money can insulate you from a lot. There are a lot of life skills you really don't have to develop if you have enough money to just pay people to do things for you or to
Yeah.
not have to worry about interacting with people. And so
You know,
go
while
ahead.
we're on the subject, I
Yeah.
think a lot about how winning money and keeping money are two very different talents, like two very
Yeah.
different skills.
Yes.
Like there's been some cases in the like I don't mean to like single him out or attack this
Hmm.
dude, but I'm sure you saw the story about David Peters recently,
Yeah.
not being able to pay back Dylan Lindy. I think it was around $25,000 or something. And of
Hmm.
course, David Peters is like an incredible tournament poker player and has a
Hmm.
hidden mob with like $50 million in winnings. And I'm sure until a week ago, everyone, thought was somebody was quite financially successful.
Right.
And he may very well bounce back. My point being that there are people in poker who are and gambling who are incredible at making money,
Hmm.
but like keeping the money, having long-term vision, having self-control, having discipline, not having ridiculous leaks on spending habits
Yeah.
or lifestyle inflation oftentimes separates the dudes in the game who stay solvent and kind of do well over
Yeah.
the long term.
100%. And that's, yeah, like we were saying, one of my regrets is just not having the money at the same time I had the financial discipline. And I'm like, I wouldn't say I'm the most disciplined person in the world, but I also don't have like a
Right.
lot of extravagant habits. We go out to eat sometimes. When I
Sure.
have the money, I like to travel, but not like let me buy, you know, some like 5-figure watch or something just cause. I don't collect a lot of expensive things. Lately, I've been collecting posters mostly because I wanted to finally decorate our home. And I had a lot
Okay.
of free time over the last year. And yeah, not even expensive, or posters from like shows I've been to and whatnot. Because I do. That's been one of my, not even an indulgence the last few years, but just going to more concerts again. It's weird. In my 30s, I feel like I didn't find a lot of new music I liked, and that could have been for a couple of reasons. And it's like, oh, maybe I'm just getting old. Music, new music's not for me. It's for the kids again. And weirdly, now that I'm in my 40s, for these last like 4 or 5 years, it's been like, oh, wait, there are bands that are making stuff I like again, or that's inspired by, the bands I used to listen to when I was young. So it's
Yeah,
weird.
now
I
they're
guess.
iterating on stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's cyclical. I guess that's what they say about fashion. I guess it's true for like trends in pop music too. Yeah, but there's just a lot of rock. There are a lot of rock bands now that just sound like or take a lot of cues from like the indie rock I used to listen to in my 20s, or grunge and stuff, alternative rock I grew up with in my teens. Middle school, high
It's
school.
definitely true in fashion. I'll spit some fashion at you.
Yeah, let's do it.
In the 90s, like early 2000s, the look, the aesthetic for suits was
Hmm.
very like wide fitting. And
Okay.
if you go back and look at any of the pictures, especially I would say the 90s, just like the fit of everything was kind of wide and loose,
Hmm.
you know. And then in the like later 2000s and definitely in the 2010s, there's very much like a thinning of suits. Everything about it, like the way it fit around your wrist, your arm was thinned down, the
Hmm.
way it fit around your waist, your crotch, shoulders, just really all of it, trying to make like this very sleek profile.
Yeah.
And now when you start to look around about like what a lot of the best men's suit makers are making, is shifting back in this direction of sort of like widening out. It hasn't gotten extreme yet. Like there was a
Yeah.
period where it was just you look at these guys and like Jesus, it's flopping around everywhere. But like
One step
but
away from
now
David
it's
Byrne.
I would say like after a long period where like if your suit wasn't kind of like lean and kind of thin, like you looked a little bit ridiculous, a little bit out of touch.
Yeah.
There is very, very much a shift back towards the wide look, or at least a middle ground.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. I don't. I'm like, well, thank God, because I'm, not wide, but I'm a big enough guy that slim is not really an adjective I would use to
I see.
describe me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. I was gonna say, actually, now that you mention it, that is one thing I probably would indulge on more if I had the money. Not clothes for clothes' sake, but like, yeah, let's get a few things that are just nice and fit well and will last.
Sure.
Like I've been, I have been upgrading a little bit the last few years because I really got kind of sick of not having anything in between like t-shirts and sweatpants or like business casual, which I don't really like to dress in. I don't like jeans either. I feel like that makes me a huge outlier, but it's like I just don't think they're comfortable. I don't know why.
I kind of get you in
Yeah,
warm temperatures. They're not like having
yeah,
lived in Vegas for a while. I never wore jeans because it's
mhm.
just too damn hot for jeans almost
Sure,
always. Now if I end up here in Brooklyn and I'm in more like temperate or Midwest, I'm from Midwest, and
yeah,
so if I'm back there, if I'm in like a temperate climate, yeah, I fuck with jeans.
yeah. Oh, where are you? Oh, okay. Sorry, one second.
Hmm.
For some reason, okay. Well, I'm gonna put a pin in that, but yeah, like I have, I mean, I'm here in Colorado, which is a nice change from Texas. Speaking of the heat, but it's more. There are more different seasons, but it's like when it's cold, yeah, I have some sweats and stuff I don't mind, but I've been getting more linen stuff or stuff like this. My Tommy Bahama shirts for the heat, and yeah, getting back to what I was saying. So the walking, I started, wearing, getting like some walking suits and stuff. I'm sure you saw one or two in Vegas a couple years ago, and then I was like, then my next step was like, what accessories would take this to the next level? And I decided on matching sunglasses. And then in this last winter or so, I decided I don't know why I'm looking at my closet and none of the things I'm talking about are visible, so I don't know why I'm doing that. But then I started getting like these matching sweatsuits for when it's cold. It's just like if I'm gonna dress like that, at least I want to be a little fashionable. Like I said, yeah, even got a pair here. What do you think? How are we doing with these? I can't really put them
With
over my.
these
Yeah.
are fun. I
Yeah,
get
aren't
it.
they? Yeah. I've been trying to think. So I've been trying to. You're the guy I will go to for consultations on things like this. So yeah, I've been trying, have a few things like that, and it's just right. It's fun. It's just the little details that upgrade things a bit. Actually, this is funny. I actually was in New York last summer. I don't know if I mentioned that to you at all. I
Mm-mm.
we
City?
yeah, in the city. We went to we One of the biggest reasons we went was to see that production of Glenn Ross that was out last year, the one with all the comedians, or Kieran Culkin and like Bill Burr, Michael McKean, Bob Odenkirk.
Oh, that must have been
Oh, it
awesome.
was
That
great.
must have been
We had a
great.
blast. I am drinking a mug from it, which I would show you, except it has gone through the dishwasher a couple too many times when it
I
shouldn't have.
fucking
All
loved
the
Kieran Culkin sessions so
yeah.
much, and like Bill Burr is just
Mm. Yeah, Bill Burr is one of my favorite
OG.
stand-up
Yeah.
working genius, and Odenkirk. I've been a fan since the Mr. Show days. I would say since the Ben Stiller show days, but I always forget. But I didn't actually watch that till later, and I was like 10
Okay.
when it came out or something. But yeah, this was at one time. Hang on, let me see it on the recording. Was at one time a Glenn Ross coffee is for closers mug. It's not supposed to go through the dishwasher, and I think it has a few times. So now it is a. If you can make out any letters on there, good luck, mug. Uh,
No, but I'll take your word for it.
exactly, yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, we stayed with one of my old friends who was one of my roommates back in Houston. Now lives in Queens with his wife and their two kids. So they let us stay with them while we were in town. So we went there, and actually went out in Brooklyn one night. Very funny. I had one of my walking suits, this purple one. I'll find a picture of what I was wearing sometime, and I had some matching sunglasses for it too. And we go up, and the bouncer, like the bar we we're going to, just he's like checking. It's me and my wife and my buddy. just the three of us, and he's like checking their IDs, and he sees me. He's like, "Hey," I'm like, "Hey, I've never seen this guy before in my life. I have no idea. I
Right.
guess I'm just dressed like I get recognized." This I mean, not to put too fine a point on it too, but because this also happened once where we're just walking around in Queens. I was wearing a different one with the matching stuff, and we walked by this group of teenagers, and one of them just like look at it, just like, "Good day, sir." I was like, "Ah, you as well." And I don't know what inspired him to do that. And not to put too fine a point on it, but they were both of the gentlemen in the story were African American, and so I don't know if that's just happens to be where my particular fashion taste lean, or they're more likely to speak up, or total coincidence, or what. But yeah, I wear a lot of walking suits, and you know, trying to think of what else
Yeah,
to.
man, and New York City's got style. Like
Yeah,
it's sweet, to see,
it's
especially on the good weather days,
mm-hmm.
people are out, they're dressed up. Like this is, it's a great looking city, super
Yeah,
stylish. Everybody's just kind of got like, also like everyone's very young and motivated. I love that about New York
yeah,
City. Like you kind of have to be,
mm-hmm.
unless you've got, I
Sure,
don't know,
like
crazy family money or
right,
something. Like
exactly.
you have to be a very very motivated person to be here.
Uh,
Um, and it's also nice. Like, so one big issue I found with Vegas is because it's so spread out geographically. When you want to like link up with people, it's
mm-hmm.
kind of a big thing. You're going to have to get in your car and like set
Mm-hmm.
plans and a time and think about traffic. And it's
Yeah.
not to like LA levels. LA
Oh
is a
my God,
whole
LA.
different
Yeah,
beast.
Houston's very
But
similar to
Vegas
LA.
was starting to feel like a very disconnected place to live.
Yeah.
And just the idea of having walkability again and being
Oh
able
yeah.
to very easy and spontaneously link up with people and
Mm-hmm.
just like go grab lunch, go grab coffee.
Yeah.
I played tennis with Dan Smith on like real short notice the other day. That kind of thing that's available
Cool.
here. That especially as more people moved away from Vegas or just like got a bit older, ended up having kids, wife and kids, a lot more responsibilities, those kind of things. Being in Brooklyn is much more of like kind of a hangout vibe.
Yeah.
There's and most people's kids here are their dogs.
Sure. We see some of that in Denver too. Well, both. I especially on the west side of town, um, which is it. I was joking. I have joked in the past, to be accurate, that moving from Houston, it was a bit of a culture shock that first year because Houston is an extremely diverse place, and like all kinds of races, creeds, genders, orientations, what have you. Everything. Rich, poor. Um, and I loved where we lived there because it was one of the few walkable neighborhoods in Houston. Houston traffic is very comparable to LA traffic in that it's all an absurd spread
Yeah, I've
out
heard it's
city.
terrible.
It's all absurdly spread out. It's way too congested all the time. It's horrible to deal with. The biggest difference is probably in, it might not be as, the traffic might be not quite as bad as LA, but, the chance of getting a gun pulled on you on the highway are significantly higher. So it's not,
Significantly.
not really somewhere you want to be. But yeah, I love cities. I love like walkable neighborhoods like that, and I love just being able to go around and go outside, just go somewhere during the day without a car or anything. And
Yeah,
I
and that's
miss.
that's a big part of the change we were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And a big part with this tax change that they brought about this year,
Oh
which is so
yeah,
penalizing for
yeah,
gamblers and poker players, I felt a lot less reason to be in Vegas, to be playing a high volume of tournaments, to be grinding more online. It just kind of felt like
yeah,
you're being penalized for working more. There are outcomes where you could have a year where you break even ish or you're a small loser and then the government expects to see more money. Like it
yeah,
may very well be that if you have a break even year, the government is gonna try and get more money out of you. And that's crazy to me. And it just makes me not
yeah.
want to play very much. And yeah, so
Right. It
I'm
seems to
doing a
be
lot of
no
prediction
apparent reason.
markets
Oh
these
yeah.
days is actually what I've been spending more of my like gambling centric
Mm-hmm.
time on. And I feel like similar to how we got the poker boom in the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
And there was kind of a finite amount of time where there was a lot of like good money.
Yeah.
I think the same thing is going to play out for prediction markets where, as long as Donald Trump Jr. is an advisor to one and sits on the board of another, or is an
Right.
investor in the other. I don't see the Trump administration making any moves to limit the widespread access of prediction markets. However,
Hmm.
it seems pretty likely the Dems are very, very likely to take back the House. They're ballpark flipping to take back the Senate in 26, and then we'll see what happens in 28.
Sure.
I haven't really looked into what seats are available there. And
Yeah.
then I would say they're probably like a on the good side of a flip to
Hmm.
win the presidency in 28. And
Yeah.
assuming they ended up with two of three branches or three of three branches, I think they're probably going to break up the party on prediction markets, and that the opportunity to like really get some money out of these things is just
Hmm.
going to be in the next few years. And honestly,
Yeah.
even I've been taking them seriously for a few months now, even though in those months, Polymarket has rolled out fees on markets that they didn't have them on before, and that already has made the environment tougher. Like in the
Yeah.
same way, you've heard the term shitification.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like the same way we experience that, with online poker,
Hmm.
or like a daily fantasy sports.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna see in prediction markets, but hopefully in the window that we have, we'll be able to capture some of the value. And it's an interesting challenge to
Yeah.
look at world events or to follow sports closely or to do whatever and try and be one step ahead.
Yeah. Is there a particular like arena on those you feel like you have success or real edge at, like category or topic or what have you,
Um,
as far as world
Geopolitics.
news?
I would
Yeah.
say, I've been tracking my sports bets for
Hmm.
like a year and a half, and I have a sample of like 450, and I'm
Yeah.
basically like dead break even. So, as
Man.
hard as I try sports, it would appear that like I probably am not much of a winning sports bettor, at least not a loser.
Uh huh.
On geopolitics, I've made a quite a decent profit so far. Mostly under the thesis that nothing ever really happens. Like, yeah, sometimes things do happen. Like
Yeah.
we did in fact start a war with Iran and
Yeah.
killed Khomeini and like snatched up Maduro out of Venezuela, and I lost money all the times that those things happen.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of stuff that becomes a narrative in different sectors of the media
Hmm.
that people start to believe is going to happen or is going
Yeah.
to have these really meaningful, impactful consequences that are going to play out in all these various ways. And I'm a big believer that most of those things won't materialize. For the most
Yeah.
part, the media is just sort of selling a more hyperbolic version of events or version of possibility, and that
Yeah.
people get
Or
all excited to bet on the chances of these things happening. And so a lot of my strategy has just been betting no on the kind of things that people get on there to fire on happening.
yeah. I so yeah, yeah, that makes sense, and I think you're absolutely right that there's a lot of our mass media these days is not only sensationalist but often pushing a narrative of events, whether or not that is realistic or grounded much in reality of the facts of how things play out. Just
Right. I mean, the
um,
media's incentive is clicks and views.
right.
That's what it is. And so like having a more measured, nuanced take on things, which is how things usually are. Things are very rarely black and
Hmm.
white. They're
Yeah.
very gray.
Yeah.
That doesn't sell. If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
the version of events
What's
people
up with
get in
us?
media, I'm not somebody that's just like, oh, it's all fake news. It's all fake news. Like,
Yeah.
no, like it's twisted news. It's brought to you with an agenda of some kind,
Right.
depending on who's the ownership of that media. But it is often based in reality. It is their take on that reality. It is their bend to that
Right.
reality.
It's
Um,
right.
but still, there's
Hmm.
enough excitement over the things that they report on potentially happening that so far I've been able to make money mostly betting on things to just not happen.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, the sensationalist. I was gonna say, it's like, yeah, they can 100% be have reporting factual information, but it can fully be, which facts are they choosing to highlight? What is the narrative they're ultimately constructing? And I guess, for me and like world events, it's like uh, the art of storytelling is one of my fixations as a topic. One of my, why we do it as humans, what makes a good one is stuff, and even narratives or like material reality as it is. Like my politics, I would say, are more materialist now in the sense that like things don't, things happen because other things happen. There's like I mean, each side has different explanations. Like, I mean, I grew up in a kind of small, conservative, very religious community, and so there's a lot of God is doing X explanations for things happening. And
Mhm.
it's like that's not really, or that's not things work, or even on the other side, a lot of the liberals, a lot of the Democrats, when things go wrong for them, they're looking for anyone to blame who isn't themselves. And it's just like, here's why things happen. It's like, yeah, like the 2008 crash. Why did that happen? Well, because we deregulated Glass-Steagall in '99, and then everyone started gambling and just trying to make as much short-term profit as possible, and then it all came up. There's actual cause and effect. It's not like there was something that came out of nowhere to make that happen, and just trying to understand those things. It's funny how you're saying things not to happen. I read a day or two ago. I think it was, I don't remember which one. I think it was on Polymarket, but it doesn't really matter which one. That I don't know how much of an NFL fan you are, but
Massive,
oh,
massive
great,
fan.
yeah, me too, perfect. Well, I read somewhere that like they were reporting that Mike Vrabel's like a 64% on like one of the prediction markets to be the
To
coach of
get
the
fired,
Patriots
to
week
get
one.
fired, right?
Yeah, or I
I
think
have I
just
already have a no bet.
yeah,
No, of
perfect. Yeah,
course
he's
not.
not getting like for that, not
He
for
took a
that.
team to the Super Bowl. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, it's
You think
like
you're gonna fire this man over not a crime?
right, and
This
it's
is
like
the NFL.
it's also like yeah, yeah, exactly. This is the goddamn NFL. But it's like yeah, for the same reason, I'm also like it's not good to have an affair with a reporter, I guess, but it's not like he is ethically obligated by the neutrality or whatever of his profession. She is, and so it's like yeah, she
Yes.
could probably lose her job, but him like what is
Now look, Nate, I will say there is some risk that
mm-hmm,
he was feeding her information in that relationship that she should not have had, and that she acted on it in a way that may have leveraged the information to the Patriots' advantage when he was working there. And
mm-hmm,
maybe somewhere down the line there are consequences. But
mm-hmm.
essentially that would take like an investigation, right? That
Yeah,
and like probably a slow moving investigation that the NFL does not want to launch if they can avoid it.
right,
They want this to just go away and everybody goes back to football. And
right,
so the likelihood that that investigation launches and discovers something that is so disqualifying and so smoking gun that
mm-hmm,
Vrabel is going to be out before September 1st, that's the expiry of the bet, mind you,
yeah,
seems ridiculous to me. Is it
yeah.
possible? Yeah, maybe. It's like, I don't know,
Sure, it's possible.
15, 20% to happen.
A lot of
I,
things are
I, I think,
possible. Yeah, but it right
but
exactly.
like this man went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Get a grip.
yeah. Yeah, they were like what 4-13 the year before, maybe even three and
Exactly.
four.
And
Yeah,
he's a franchise legend. He won Super Bowls there as a linebacker. Like, what are
yeah.
we talking about?
Touchdown
They're not
catching
going to toss out
linebacker.
Mike Vrabel.
Yeah. No, of course not. Like that's just kind of how I feel. It's like if he really, yeah, like you said, if he could do something, if he did do something that sort of damaged the integrity of the game, or like yeah, leaking stories or information she's not supposed to have, or he's not supposed to have, or supposed
Yeah.
to be confidential for one reason or another, maybe. But like you said, even to determine that would be a long investigation. That is, even if they start today, would not be wrapping up in 4 months.
But this is exactly my point, Nate,
Yeah,
that this story has really captivated the news and social media for a
yeah,
few weeks now. It's all over the headlines. And so the consequence that people lead themselves to is Mike Vrabel's going to get fired.
right.
And my basic thesis is nah, probably not. Like maybe, but probably
Probably
not.
not.
Extremely unlikely. And this is kind of my whole thing on Polymarket or Kalshi or whatever. And I love
Yeah.
that you tossed out a bet that I already had a bet on.
That was the first one I thought
Uh,
of that I saw recently and was like,
as
oh,
soon as I saw it,
that's
I was
just
like,
not
no
going to
way,
happen.
dude.
Yeah.
No. Went to the Super Bowl. What are we talking about?
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I like, yeah, and yeah, that kind of brings it full circle with what we were saying with the sensationalism. Like that would be the most sensational result that he gets fired, but that is also the story people want to buy in, but it doesn't mean it's the most accurate result, and probably far from
Mm-hmm.
it. Or uh, so yeah, totally agree. There's a lot of stuff like that. Speaking of, I was just laughing. Did you? The one thing about them though is all the I'm sure you saw this. I mean, there's been tons of rumors of insider trading on them, but there's the one they actually arrested that soldier who bet like
Yeah.
300 grand on
Good.
them abducting Maduro right before he like left for the mission to abduct Maduro. Like, yeah. So they're probably we probably need some re-regulations against insider trading and that. And generally, I don't really think there's a lot of that, and the stock market these days maybe either. But I
I
don't know
don't
as much
know.
about the
You know, there's
markets.
definitely some insider trading going
Yeah,
on prediction markets. That's
yeah,
no obviously,
yeah, yeah.
obviously. the like ethics of prediction markets and just the
Mhm.
gamification of everything in America is sort of like a hot button issue right
Yeah.
now. Social media on YouTube, a lot of people, media in general, just kind of questioning whether it's okay that in the last decade or so we've turned all
Mhm.
these different vectors of life into something that we gamble on. And
Yeah.
in the case of prediction markets, they would say that it's a trading platform.
Mhm.
We all know that it's gambling. They advertise themselves as if they are a gambling site, and I suspect that 10 to 15 years from now, we're going to
Mhm.
see some very serious societal consequences of young generations of people, especially young generations of men,
Mhm.
growing up in an environment that is taking their money from a young age
Yeah.
and addicting them to the dopamine rush of gambling, which, like
Yeah.
I feel like I do a pretty good job of managing my gambling leaks and like the side of me
Mhm.
that's like, I'm doing gambling because I'm working and like I'm doing gambling because it's something I'm a little bit compelled to do.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like I have a pretty good balance there, but I
Mhm.
still feel the pull of this one, you know?
Oh,
For a
sure.
lot of people, the pull is like way stronger. It's much, much bigger.
Mhm.
And they don't even really think about the like, how do I do gambling well side of things? And it's
Yeah.
just the pull. And yeah, I think 10, 15 years from now, man, I don't know. It could be pretty
Yeah.
bleak
Or
for
maybe
what this
even
does to people on a
sooner
widespread basis.
to be
We'll
honest.
see.
Yeah, maybe even sooner. Just you hear all the stories about sports betting now, even with
Yeah.
not people losing money, harassing athletes or whatever. And yeah, it's a weird thing for me, or like where to stand on this because it's like obvious on the one hand, yeah, there's a lot of societal damage here, and on the other hand, obviously, I don't think gambling should be illegal.
Nope.
And it's extraordinarily frustrating that poker is illegal while all this other stuff is, or gray area online, except for like 6 states, or
Yeah.
well, 6 states where it's explicitly legal, and then a few more where it's explicitly illegal. Um, but it is, compared to like sports betting or prediction markets, it is like you have to at least sit down and play. You can't just get on your phone and in 10 seconds put like 2 months rent or mortgage on a bet and then just sit
Yeah.
back and wait. And I think, yeah, I think that's I guess part of it for me is I don't think it should be illegal, but maybe you should have to like know a guy. There should be like a little more friction to the process. It's like
Well,
that sort of. Are
I
you
just
sure
think
you
when
want to gamble?
like, when you and I got into gambling, got
Yeah.
into poker and all this stuff, as you said, it was a much more physical environment. There was online poker,
Mm-hmm.
but for them and there was online like casinos, and there was even early versions of online sports books at that
Yeah.
time and stuff. So, like, the mechanics of it all existed. However, there wasn't just, like, a giant society-wide umbrella of corporations
Right.
raining gambling content down on you through every medium of your life, and you've
Good.
got a casino in your pocket
Right.
at all
Exactly.
times that is sending you little reminders to bet on more stuff and monitoring all of your behavior and using it to cook up this algorithm of maximum temptation.
Right.
Back then, if you wanted to bet on a sports game, most people had to like drive to a casino or
Mm-hmm.
drive to a sports book,
Yeah.
make a couple of like
OTBs.
pre-match bets, and then
Mm-hmm.
like that was it for the day. Or if they wanted to play poker, they were going to go to a physical poker room or maybe play a few tables online. And back then, you didn't have to
Yeah.
worry about like sophisticated bots
Right.
with AI program strategy
Right.
messing you up. It just feels like a much more competitive environment in the one we exist in now, and the ones
Mm-hmm.
that these like young people and young men are sort of graduating into, where I do feel like our generation, Nate,
Yeah.
had a pretty like good shot at it. And I look at the
Yeah.
one that the current generation gets, and they to me look like they're being kind of cheated in a lot of different ways.
Oh yeah, totally. And I'm sure they feel that. Right. Like it doesn't even like I'll be 45 this year, and just in my
Hmm.
lifetime, it's gone from like the 80s. You work, you can pay your rent, save up, buy a house maybe, to like the 2000s worth. Like yeah, we had poker. That might have been like the last real ship to get on financially, and since then, since the 2008 crash, it's like, and since honestly, a lot of for people who went to college, tuition started skyrocketing after 2005
Hmm.
because of the bankruptcy bill that says you can't discharge student loans at bankruptcy. So they're like, well, screw it. Let's just soak all the students in, since we know eventually we'll get this money back one way or the other. And so, in 5 years' time, maybe you go from, being able to get a decent job and reasonable, affordable, loans to pay back to like, if you can find a job, your entire paycheck is going to rent and student loans, and just like that. And it's gone from like you can build something to yourself to like you're here to be exploited, basically, I feel like. And that's kind of indicative of the problem there. Again, I don't think gambling should be illegal, but yeah, like you said, it's
Right.
like you
Yeah,
were
I
just
don't know what
describing
the
all
middle
that
ground is.
pushing.
I
Yeah,
don't know what the middle ground is.
I think it's just the aggressive pushing that's got to stop. Like you said, it's in your phone. It's designed to like make you maximally try to addict you, and that it's being pumped at you on the TV all the time, and the commercials, or they're partnering with actual sports broadcasts and networks now and stuff. And I think that's something we need to peel back on. Like it's like I'm in Colorado, weed is legal here. Sure, we all know that.
Sure.
But like, it would be so much more obnoxious if like every single TV show you watched, you're getting these ads to like, this strain is going to be the best of the, to watch this show with. It'll put you in the best mood or whatever. Have you tried these edibles with it? Get on your phone now, press 2 buttons, spend your money. Yeah, that would get real old real fast. And like, there's a reason I think we don't really let that happen, or,
Yeah.
they've, you know, alcohol advertisements have their own restrictions too. But, this is, basically, I'm not, I'm certainly not against vices, but I think, some level of, like I said, some level of friction where it's not just the
Some
easy.
boundaries.
Yeah,
Some
it's not just
boundaries.
the easiest thing in the world to do. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
in a 10-second impulse on your phone. It's like I said, like the equivalent of, if you're just enough to, you have to go somewhere, you have to stop and think about it before you bet. Like, the equivalent of like, Windows pop-ups like, are you sure you want to uninstall whatever? It's like, are you sure you want to place this bet? Give it a minute, think about it. Which is obviously, a little different. And the other thing is, yeah, like you said, we come from an environment where we've been gambling for 20 some years. We kind of, I'm not an expert at sports betting or prediction markets, but at least, kind of know what I'm doing and know, what my risk tolerance is and stuff. I'm not going to go put 30% of my net worth on a bet or something.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, a
you
lot of
know,
these horror stories off the prediction markets are like people who ran it up and then they put everything on one prediction. And I'm like, why would you
yeah, I
ever?
know.
But
If
like,
I,
it's just, people are just so,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if impulsive is the right word or they just have like
hmm,
misplaced conviction or just, I just don't know. Like, I just can't
yeah,
imagine doing something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
I just, why
yeah.
would you wipe yourself? And people who run up like a few $100s into like 40K or something, and then
Yeah.
it's like you placed it all on one
Oh my
wager. It's like,
God,
but
no.
why? Why would you? You were doing so great.
I
You
know,
know,
and
like,
like, and that much money, I'm not. Yeah, I guess there's always the temptation of, but what if it's even more money? But I'm also like,
yeah,
man, measuring money and time is money, and I'm like, well, that much money means I don't have to find a job or work for another, however many months, 6 months, 8 months, whatever. It's like, so let's take some of that, put it away, and then try to make more with the rest. At least now I know I have this window to not have to worry financially before I. Yeah. Oh man. The only thing I ever really had any luck with this kind of, I've won a little bit of sports betting on the NFL, but not a
mhm.
lot, and mostly like NFL draft related or things like that.
Right.
Just because there's so much.
Did you bet this draft?
I didn't really this draft. I didn't find any lines I liked, and it was such a weird draft. Nobody,
Mhm.
none of the teams were really into it. You know what I mean? Like there was
I
a.
lost some money on the
Yeah.
draft.
What'd you bet on?
I bet on. I had Arvel Reese to go number two. He
Oh
closed
yeah.
at like minus 1,700, and I
Jesus.
lost. I got him at like 50-50. And I had
Yeah.
Jeremiah Love to not get drafted number three because I
Oh
still kind
no.
of thought that, like, why would you do that? That's ridiculous. They're probably just sending up a
Yeah.
smokescreen to see if somebody will trade up and get him.
Uh huh.
And that lost. And then I had Sonny Styles going number five to the Giants, based on like a lot of consensus boards. But then when
Yeah.
Arvel Reese falls, of course they take him. So
Exactly.
like, thankfully, some of my other like just no bets, but
Hmm.
like again, the draft was again one of the rare times I got away from betting no's, and I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I think this could happen. I think this could happen. It's like just just bet no. Just
Yeah.
bet on whenever
Bet
everyone
no on
believes is gonna
everything.
happen, just bet
Just bet
no
the
against that. You
opposite.
can lose some, but like So yeah,
Yeah.
but I love the draft.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
Oh,
Love the
I do
draft.
too, man. It's been one of my,
Um,
used to have a website just studying, and I've tried. It's one of the things I learned. Zone reads. It's kind of dormant now, but some of the old writing's still up at zonereads.com. But yeah, I used to try to
who's your
study
team?
Saints.
Saints.
So
Okay. Oh man, they got a future.
I mean,
I like
yeah,
what Chuck showed.
yeah, me
I like
too.
what
And
Chuck showed. They drafted all. Tyson. They drafted all like
yeah,
offense early
Bryce
on.
Lance
Like
too. Yeah, I really like
I
what
like
they've.
Kellen Moore.
Yeah, yeah, I think Kellen Moore is. It wasn't. I didn't know how good he'd be, but I think he's been, surprisingly, uh, done a surprisingly good
He ran
job.
a pretty damn good offense in Dallas for a while.
Yeah.
He had them firing on all cylinders for a little while. He certainly had Shuck looking good
Hmm.
last year. Made the most out of their weapons, and now you put both Tyson and these other
Yeah.
guys
Must be
into the
built
system.
differently.
There feels like they might start putting up some big numbers on people. Who's the running back?
They
Who they got
signed
running?
Travis Etienne.
Mara.
No, they signed Travis Etienne.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So
yeah,
like
free
him and
agency.
look, Mara's
Yeah,
pretty old,
yeah.
but
Kamara's
like
I think over 30 at this point, but he also doesn't
okay,
want.
HN,
Yeah,
like cool. And probably some other third string guy who's shockingly good
yeah.
because
There are a
that's how the
couple.
NFL
Yeah, there are a
works.
couple younger guys who are late round picks. Someone like Devin Neal, maybe is a
Oh, Devin
third
Neal's
guy.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
yeah.
all right.
Devin Neal. They've got who else? Kendry Miller if he's ever healthy. Maybe
Yeah,
Andre.
Kendrick Miller's never
Yeah,
been.
Andre Estime, who was like a Broncos pick that they ended up picking up. Like got some solid run last year. I don't know if he's in the long.
Okay.
I don't know if
He's
he's
not
in the
that
long
well.
term plans. Yeah, Kamara's about to be 31 though. I think we love Kamara.
It's been a great career.
It has been a great career. We love
Great
Kamara,
career.
but like
Yeah.
it's probably he's a running back who is about to be 31, so it's the end of the
One
line
of the great
pretty much.
receiving backs of the last decade.
Oh yeah, he was unbelievable. Like
Fantasy stud.
yeah,
Absolute
we love
machine.
Kamara. One of the
Bravo career.
yeah,
Alvin Kamara.
we love him. And he doesn't want to play anywhere else. He's New Orleans is a very kind of unique city. I think America, and especially like how kind of everyone relates to the Saints because it's one of the only things everybody can agree on in Louisiana. We love our
I'm a
Saints.
Packers man. I feel
Yeah, yeah,
mostly
makes sense.
optimistic. Tough division. Very
Yeah,
tough
tough
division.
division. I was just watching some NFL podcasts this week, and they were doing the over unders, and like I don't think anyone. Oh, like what was the lowest line? Like the worst line in the North might have been like the Vikings 8.5. Like if it wasn't 9.5, no, I think it was 8.5. But it's like yeah, everyone's projected to basically have a winning record. I think the Packers were the favorite, but yeah, it's crazy. That's a tough division, but yeah, there's a lot of future. They seem to have figured out the receivers. Love is good, which I had no idea what he'd be like coming out. It looks like
He really impressed me this last year. Now
hmm
I'm completely sold. First year I was like, I don't know. And then the last 8, 9 games, he was like unbelievable. I was like,
yeah.
okay, is this guy, a huge stud? Second year, mostly played hurt since week 1, and it was like
hmm
kind of okay, kind of streaky. And then year 3, everything clicked. Yeah, I think statistically he was one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league. I'm not saying that he is that. I'm just
Right.
saying that last year he played at that level.
hmm
And I really liked what he showed in clutch time. So I'm really sold on him now. And if Micah Parsons comes back healthy,
hmm
and
Yeah.
some of their other key pieces, Tucker Craft,
Yeah. Craft's really important.
Watson, those guys stay
hmm
healthy, which has been hit or miss over the years. Um, it's a team with a very high ceiling, put it
Yeah.
that way. Very
Yeah.
high ceiling. New defensive coordinator,
hmm
Rich Gannon. I don't know enough about him to have like a strong take, but
That's
overall, as a Packers fan, I'm going in optimistic. Kind of think
the
that if
Jonathan game.
again, if Parsons comes back, week 4 and he's himself, he's Michael Parsons. The
Right.
ceiling is the Super Bowl. If he comes back a diluted version of himself, I think they're
hmm
probably like the ceiling's like a divisional roundish, like they were last year.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, and I think if they get everyone healthy, like Parsons is such a game changer too. That like you even look at either him or with the Packers or Cowboys, the kind of on-off numbers. It's like it's basically no one in the league like
Yeah.
that. I mean, Miles
He's
Garrett, I
unbelievable.
guess, but yeah, unbelievable player.
Yeah.
Unbelievable that he even made it to 11. Well, to be honest, at that draft, I mean, I wasn't doing it as intensely as I was, when I was still writing. But also at the time, well, people thought he might actually play more off-ball linebacker, so
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of and then they moved the pass rushers. Like, oh yeah, well if I'd known they were doing that, then yeah, it totally makes sense that he should be one of the top guys in this draft. It's course, that was a pretty loaded draft too. You had
That was a
you know,
loaded
Jamar
draft, bro.
Chase and
Loaded draft.
Penei Sewell, Jalen Waddle, J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, Devontae. Jesus, like everyone but the
Yeah.
quarterbacks is like
2 picks in
so.
like the top 10 that didn't hit.
Yeah, someone. Yeah, so either like a just total stud or you know very good player. Like Devontae Smith hasn't made any Pro Bowls, but he's certainly a very good player. Uh, you know, Kyle Pitts even who had that killer. I don't think he's been healthy since, but he had that killer rookie year.
Mhm.
Oh, this was actually I was going to say. Speaking of, this is a good draft. This is the 21 draft. A good example of what I was talking about the betting. I did make some good money on this one, mostly fading the rumor that the 49ers trade up was for Mac Jones.
Mm.
Like I found after that on one of the books here, probably BetMGM, which is what I mostly use for sports betting, especially in the pre-prediction market days. They had like so with all that talk, they'd set like Mac Jones over under at 3.5. I just like hammered the overs. Like, there's no way they traded up for that guy. Like,
He's just, yeah, he wasn't a
yeah,
high enough ceiling
yeah,
prospect.
exactly. Like, he's not have like the talent level to warrant trading up that much for him. Could have easily they could have sat at 12 and gotten him. Uh, oh man, that was another year. I made one of those long shot bets. I wish I could have cashed out on it. I don't think it was an option, but I bet before the season that it would be like a Bengals Cardinals Super Bowl or something because the odds were
Mhm.
like 100 to 1, 200 to 1, plus 10,000. Well, I forget exactly. Those are the five figures, and that was the year the Bengals did make the Super Bowl, and the Cardinals won 11 games, but they kind of faded down the stretch.
I remember that. That was the
Yeah,
one year
they
everyone
were
thought
10 and
Kyler was good.
yeah, they were 10-2 at one point, but they finished 11-6 and then lost the wild card round. But it's like that's just as close as a long shot. That is the
They're the
frustrating thing.
Jags of the West Coast.
Yeah. What about the Jags?
So they're the Jags of the West Coast. Just a
Yeah,
team that like win a bunch of games and then kind of fade at the end and then
yeah.
immediately out of the playoffs like
That
that.
actually kind of surprised. I thought the Jags would do more in the playoffs this year,
I
but
mean, they were competitive with the
yeah.
Bills, but yeah,
No, I mean, yeah,
that
but
was
they
it.
still right. Yeah, one game. But man, that's finally found a good coach. I think there've been so many what's the word for just mistaken decisions and disasters trying to put together a team. Like the Urban Meyer fiasco and such. Incredible. Yeah.
Ugh.
um. On some other topics, I guess I wanted let's get your
Yeah,
background.
like
I know.
I should head out reasonably soon. Was
Okay.
there anything else you really wanted to hit on?
Um. Let's see. If you got a few minutes, I guess I just wanted to get
Yeah.
into some basics. Like, I always forget that you're actually, from, admittedly, like Milwaukee, not Australia, sometimes. But like, so I guess what was so just a little background. Like, I guess a combination of what was your upbringing like, what your folks do, and like,
Yeah.
why'd you go to Australia and why'd you get into poker? Kind of.
So I grew up in Madison, was born in
Okay.
Milwaukee. My dad was essentially a lawyer for the state elections board. My mom was
Okay.
a nurse and
Oh, cool.
taught nursing. I was in school and university during the poker boom, like
Yeah.
the real peak of it. And I won a package playing on Party Poker in like 2004 or 2005 to go down to the Aussie Millions. I think it was the
Nice.
2005 Aussie Millions
Okay.
because I was 20 years old, and it wasn't until 2006 that I'd be eligible for the World Series main event.
Right.
So I went down there, played the Aussie Millions. It was like my first real live poker, and I'm in this like 10K AUD,
Yeah.
this incredible casino in this faraway city in this country I never thought I'd ever go to. And I just
Right.
really fell in love with like the lifestyle of travel
Mm-hmm.
and poker and the idea that like this could all be real. And so
Yeah.
I did win some money on that trip, and I used it towards doing study abroad in
Oh,
Australia,
cool.
and did a full year of study abroad in Australia, and even tried to like live there, and I ended up spending the better part of like 5 years there before I came back to the States and
Mm-hmm.
landed with WPT.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I went back recently, and Australia just kind of remains just kind of the best. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. I haven't. Shit. I haven't been since my own Aussie Millions trip, which was 2007. But a friend of mine just
Yeah.
moved there and is in Melbourne now. Just kind of he and his wife. He got married a couple of years ago. He and his wife are looking for work. They're kind of hippies, but he's also like a really brilliant like computer guy,
Hmm.
programmer and whatnot. I don't know exactly what he does. I just know he's really good at it. So he's just trying to find a job that'll sponsor him right now. And yeah, but Melbourne was really cool. I like Melbourne a lot.
Awesome city.
Yeah, a lot of fun. That was a good trip for me too, financially. Not because of my own performance in the tournament. I busted day one pretty early uh, of the actual main because I. Oh yeah, I remember it's like I opened King eight suited, I think, on the button, and Haralabos Bulgaris called on the no on the button. He called the button. I was in the cutoff, right? Yeah, and I flopped the flush, and we got it in, and he had the ace high flush. I was like, well, all right, what
There
are you
was
gonna?
that.
Yeah, what are you gonna do about that? But I had 10% of Jimmy Frankie, and that was the year he finished second place. So that was
Oh,
way better for me than
legendary.
my own. Yeah, so that was great. And I think I won like 100 rebuy on stars while I was there too. So you know, it was a good trip. We had a lot of fun. Brought my dad along. Got to see some cool shit. Even eat some guy kangaroo. That was interesting. I mean, wasn't bad.
Yep.
A little tangy.
It's not bad. It's just a
Yeah,
little odd. It's a little
yeah. It's a
tough.
little odd. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's you know kind of one of those novelty things you do, and then yeah, it's fine. I don't know if I'd get it again. Uh, but yeah, okay. And then you came back for WPT. Was there anything particular, I guess, that made you want to get into broadcasting? You just thought it was a cool opportunity. You wanted to be, you know,
I was
what
a
led
theater
that?
major back in
Oh, cool.
college,
Oh yeah. All right.
and
Right on.
enjoyed like public speaking and writing and
Mm-hmm.
the arts, things like that. I enjoyed sports a whole lot growing
Yeah.
up, but I never aspired to be in broadcasting. But
Mm-hmm.
it was just kind of like right place, right time where I heard about this audition and they had this description of what they were looking for in this role in this commentator. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's kind of like me and what I do. That sounds great. I'll go and try out. Why not? Like,
Yeah.
what's the worst that can happen? They say no. I don't want a job anyway. And
Right.
so I think I really approached the job interview with that confidence, which was
Mm.
just like, hey, I think I am the right guy for this job, but also I genuinely don't care if I don't get it because like I got into poker to not have a job,
Right.
and I think part of that carried me through a little as well, where I was just like very free to not feel much pressure. My job, my boss to this day is just like I've sat in on a bunch of job interviews and auditions. Yours remains the best. I'm like, oh, so thank
Oh,
you hear
that's
that,
great.
but like, and truly, I just I wanted the job. I don't mean to act like it wasn't worth having,
Yeah.
but I just didn't care if I got
Right.
rejected.
Because it's like, yeah, life goes on. You know,
Yeah.
I got other things you can do, but if you get it, great. And it does seem really cool. I like the, I like I said earlier, like this point in my life, I might actually be better at commentating than playing, which I don't know if I would have said even 5 years ago. Certainly not
Yeah.
16 years ago. I would have been probably terrible at it, or you know, would have gotten us fined by the FCC or something. I don't know. I've gotten a little better control at doing things like swearing on a live broadcast or what have you. But
Right.
you know, and I got a million and one stories from everywhere I've been, everything I've done nowadays too, which always helps to fill the slower moments of a broadcast. Man, that is really cool. Yeah, kind of a
Thanks, man.
one of a kind kind of career there. Uh, yeah. What else? Shit, you answered a lot of the questions I thought I was thinking of already. So
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's
yeah,
good.
yeah. That was great. I was trying to think if there's anything particular else I wanted to talk about. But yeah, well, I guess last question. And I have
Sure.
to bring this up. We touched a little on men's fashion earlier, and I guess I want to know how that became a thing for you because I always remember, even way back in the day, even
Yeah.
in our olden days, like '07, '08, or whatever it was, the World Series. Yeah, you're always the guy in suits. Most of the people our generation do not even bother trying to pretend they're dressing up, let alone actually do it.
Right.
So where are they coming? Has it just always been an interest? Was it something you decided to stand out? You just
Kind of got it from my dad,
yeah.
who was always wearing suits to work, was a fashionable guy, and kind of collected suits, has like a
Oh,
basement full of
cool.
suits to this day,
Oh, nice.
and keep like a lot of GQ and Esquire magazines around the house. So I would
Oh,
see
yeah.
the images in them and it would just sort of like fill my head with like I guess ideas for
Mm-hmm.
what a style would look like of my own. And I just always sort of enjoyed the halo effect that comes with wearing a suit, where
Yeah.
everyone just assumes like, oh, well, you're supposed to be here, like, oh,
Yeah,
right
yeah.
this way, so, like,
Yeah,
oh,
totally.
what? If you want to like walk into the back room and they're like, well, he's supposed to be here,
Yeah, that's
like
it.
I just kind of always enjoyed the I don't know, perceived authority that came with wearing a suit.
Sure, yeah, there's
And I just like the expression of style. It
yeah.
was kind of just like authentic to me to wear it and dress up in that way. And I will say, back in my 20s, I would do it like to an obsessive degree. Now I look back and it feels a little bit ridiculous how hardcore I was about it,
Yeah,
but I still kind of appreciate how committed I was.
yeah.
But I ended up in some places where why are you in a suit, bro, and in like a full blown suit and tie? And I'm not quite like that anymore, but I still love an excuse to dress up. I still love
Sure.
dressing up for work,
Yeah.
or learning about fashion and all that kind of stuff. So, but ultimately, I got it from my dad.
Very cool. Yeah. I was
Yeah,
just gonna say, yeah, that makes sense. I was gonna say it probably helps with that job application that you didn't show up in sweatpants, I imagine,
yeah,
for the WPT, but so yeah, you definitely had a leg up there. And I get it. I don't know very much, but I've been kind of on that journey to sort of figure out my own styles. We just got discussed earlier. Like I said, yeah, if I ever came into one of those money's no object situations, I'd probably, get some more nice tailored custom stuff just to it fits me. Like I said, I like to be comfortable, but I like to look good. I don't really like a lot of in between. I guess, like I said, stuff like
yeah,
business casual. Not really. It's like, yeah, if I'm not wearing a suit, I want to be comfortable. Still look nice, but be
no
comfortable.
doubt.
So, one or the other. I'm kind of, yeah, go between the extremes there. So one day, maybe one day when I be back on, you can break down, men's fashion. Give me a little lesson, and
All right, man.
then we can sell it to
Well,
the
best
group.
of
We'll,
luck
we'll,
with
we'll
the
set up a
whole
master class.
podcast and the whole
Thanks,
like
man.
project and everything. Like
Appreciate
it's
it.
great that you're launching it, and
Yeah, and
thanks for having me on.
totally, man. And I appreciate the
Yeah,
thoughts, and that hopefully, we're getting into stuff that other people won't do, and it'll be unique, and it'll grow into something. I hope. Well,
knock
thanks.
on wood. I got you on the other end.
Appreciate you, man. Well,
Yeah, man.
thanks so much for taking the time too. Had a lot of fun.
Of course.
Hope
Yeah,
you
no
enjoyed.
worries.
Yeah,
Best of luck until the next time I see you.
appreciate you, man. All right, take care, Tony.
Take
Thanks,
care.
man.